Now, I know a few things about a few things. And one thing I know for sure is this: a man who confuses your value with his bank account will always confuse your kindness with weakness. My ex, Eugene, he looked at my success and saw his retirement plan. He saw alimony. He saw a lifetime of golf and zero responsibility. He thought he was taking me to the cleaners. Child, I didn't let him take me to the cleaners. I took him off the grid. That divorce wasn't a battle, it was an eviction notice. He thought he'd signed documents, I knew he'd signed his economic death certificate. When Eugene walked out that door, he thought the money trail ended at my checkbook. He never imagined that my revenge wasn't about spite, but about financial reality. He wanted to live off me. Well, I made sure he couldn't live off anybody. And here's exactly how a lady makes sure her ex-husband learns the meaning of self-sufficiency. Now listen to Auntie May's sugar, because this is the real lesson. The fundamental disastrous catastrophic mistake Eugene made wasn't cheating, and it wasn't even being lazy. His mistake was one of simple financial literacy or a complete lack thereof. He confused his wife with a branch of the Federal Reserve. He saw a wedding ring and thought it was an unlimited credit card, honey. He looked at my beautiful face and my hard-earned empire and only saw an automatic teller machine, a machine that dispenses cash and asks no questions. That is a dangerous mistake, a fatal mistake in the world of high finance and high divorce. He stopped seeing me as a partner, a lover, a confidant, or a co-pilot. I became an object, a resource, a utility, like the water heater or the roof over his head. You don't have conversations with an ATM, do you? You don't ask the ATM about its day, its dreams, or its anxieties. You just stick the card in, punch in the numbers, and expect the money to flow. That is exactly how Eugene treated our marriage in the last 10 years, and that is why he ended up exactly where he deserved to be. Broke and alone. See the parasite mentality, it creeps in slowly, darling. It starts small with a little suggestion like, honey, why don't you cover the yacht club fees this month? My cash flow is tight. It sounds like a temporary inconvenience, an isolated blip. But the blips, they become the pattern. Soon the mortgage, the car payments, the extravagant vacations, the private school tuition, they all flow from one spigot, and that spigot is you. The man stops producing. He stops striving. He stops caring about the bottom line, because in his mind he has already won the financial lottery. He has secured a lifelong source of revenue that requires zero effort, zero accountability, and zero risk. This is the moment the wife becomes the ATM and the partnership dies a slow, miserable death of financial entitlement. He honestly believed that his primary job was simply to exist charmingly beside me. To show up at galas, look handsome, and wave the flag of success that I had actually built. He thought his good looks and his mediocre golf swing were adequate collateral for a multi-million-dollar life. That level of delusion is not just arrogance, sugar, it is a legal vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Now about that prenuptial agreement. It was beautiful. It was a document of pure protection for my inheritance and my premarital business interests. Eugene signed it easily and quickly a few weeks before the wedding. He was so giddy about the wedding itself, so sure of his ability to charm me out of its contents later on, that he barely read the 27 pages. He signed it thinking it was a formality, a speed bump on the road to endless luxury. But Ms. Dubois, my ferocious financial attorney, she wrote that prenup with a microscope and a scalpel. It wasn't just a shield, honey, it was a booby trap. The document was crystal clear on the division of marital assets. What we built together after the wedding would be split. But the core language, the killer sentence, the one Eugene's cheap little lawyer missed entirely, was the definition of marital debt. The agreement stipulated that any debt or obligation guaranteed by one party for a non-marital purpose or for the benefit of a third party would remain the sole personal obligation of the guarantor. Now that sounds dry and boring, doesn't it? That is where the poison was hidden. Eugene saw my wealth and started acting like a venture capitalist with my money but without my signature. He used his position as my husband to secure personal lines of credit. He convinced our bank's loan officer that he was a silent partner in my company, that his signature was as good as mine. He used this assumed status to personally guarantee loans for his gambling buddies, his desperate little schemes. He signed documents with his name, Eugene Sterling, and he did not include the word marital or joint anywhere on those papers. He did this because he was engaging in what Auntie May calls financial infidelity. He was hiding these debts from me, thinking he would pay them off with a big poker win or some ridiculous scheme. He was treating my name as his security blanket. But Ms. Dubois, oh, she was watching. She had a ledger, honey, a beautiful annotated ledger tracking every single one of those personal guarantees, every promissory note, every third-party signature. Eugene thought he was being clever, hiding his losses under the weight of my success. But every time he signed his name to a loan for his friend Barry or his colleague Steve, he was effectively carving out a separate financial entity called Eugene's liability, which existed entirely outside the protective bubble of our marital estate. He was building his own tiny little sinking ship right next to my massive battleship. The divorce wasn't about dividing the assets anymore. The prenup handled that and we kept my assets secure. The real game was about unmasking the debt. Eugene's entire legal strategy was built on tearing up the prenup so he could access my money and pay off his secret personal obligations. He needed the ATM to cover his gambling debts and his stupid business losses. But when Ms. Dubois presented the ledger and the signed personal guarantee documents, the judge didn't have to rule on the validity of the prenup. The judge just had to apply the debt clause which Eugene himself had signed. The court ruling was brutally simple and beautifully chilling. The multi-million-dollar assets that I had built before the marriage were mine. The small portion of assets we accumulated together was divided fairly. But the debt, the crippling seven-figure obligations Eugene took on for his friends and his hobbies, were ruled non-marital liabilities based on the very document he tried to invalidate. He was personally responsible for every single penny he guaranteed, every single loan he took out in secret. He walked out of that courtroom with a judge-mandated net worth of about $50,000 and a debt portfolio totaling $3 million. In one signature on one afternoon, he went from being a millionaire's husband to being a bankrupt golf instructor. That is what happens when you mistake a powerful woman for an ATM. The ATM has a withdrawal limit and eventually, honey, it just flashes insufficient funds and takes your card. I didn't take his money. I simply let his own hidden obligations rise to the surface and devour him whole. The beauty of the revenge, the pure anti-May joy of it all, was that it was perfectly legal, perfectly calculated and executed with surgical precision. It wasn't about emotion, it was about exposure. He thought the divorce was the price of his freedom. I made sure the divorce was the price of his solvency. He wanted to live off me forever. Well, I made sure he couldn't live off anyone but himself and his ability to give golf lessons, which is woefully inadequate, I might add. He learned the hard way, darling, that when you confuse your wife with a disposable financial instrument, you might just find that instrument has a self-destruct button and you were the one who pushed it. Let that be a lesson to every man who thinks his entitlement is a business strategy. It isn't, honey. It's just a recipe for disaster. The next lesson, baby, is about preparedness and the terrifying price of always being ready. You think the hard part is making the money. That is just the entrance fee, darling. The true labor, the spiritual taxation, is protecting it. Once you cross a certain financial threshold, you stop managing wealth and you start managing risk, and often the biggest risk is the one you sleep next to every single night. That suspicion, that cold knot of doubt in your stomach, that is the true currency of the rich. You pay that toll every day or you lose everything. Eugene thought he was charming. He thought his smile was a get-out-of-jail-free card. He genuinely believed that my love was some blind, consuming emotion that would override 20 years of careful financial strategy. Men like him, they confuse a woman's affection for a woman's intelligence. They mistake her patience for stupidity and her desire for harmony for a lack of backbone. That is their fatal flaw, their Achilles heel in every negotiation, every marriage, every legal document. They underestimate the architect. I had to become two people, you see. I was the wife, the lover, the hostess, the woman who cooked his favorite meal and listened to his tedious stories about the golf course. That was the performance, the necessary camouflage. But underneath, I was the CEO, the lawyer, the historian, tracking every incoming and outgoing dollar, every promise, every lie. It was exhausting, a constant double life, a silent war waged across the mahogany dinner table. You cannot let them see the machine working. You cannot let them smell the oil or the steel in your soul. The prenup was not a document of distrust. It was a document of foresight, a testament to statistical probability. 90% of marriages end in disagreement and 50% end in divorce. Eugene was a walking, talking financial liability from the moment I met him. He was a luxury vehicle with an empty gas tank and a faulty engine. I didn't marry him for his bank account. Obviously I married him for the projection he offered, the image of the perfect society couple. That image was a business asset. I needed him to maintain it, and I paid him handsomely for his performance. The prenup simply quantified the terms of his employment, the exit strategy if the performance review failed. He made a joke about it during the signing. He said something about a billionaire's paranoia and a silly piece of paper. I smiled, I laughed, I touched his arm exactly where he liked to be touched. I told him it was just my lawyers being overly cautious, darling. They insisted on protecting my father's legacy. He swallowed the lie like a delicious cocktail and never looked closer. That moment, that casual dismissal, was his first signature on his own financial ruin. He discounted my business acumen, he discounted my discipline, he discounted my ability to hold a secret for a decade. Never let them know the depth of your planning. The real power was not in the paper itself but in the architecture built around it. A prenup is just a piece of paper. A good lawyer can poke holes in paper. So we built walls of iron and steel around the prenup's core. We created separate trusts for every single one of my major income streams. We established holding companies in 3 different jurisdictions, all managed by a network of trustees who reported only to me. Every investment, every major property acquisition, every patent belonged to one of these separate entities. The marital estate, the joint bank account, the assets Eugene thought he was accumulating, it was all a stage set, a small glittering island of communal property surrounded by a vast ocean of unassailable private wealth. He thought the marital home was ours. It was actually owned by the Sterling Family Trust, an entity I created before our engagement. The documents stipulated he had a right to residency, not ownership. He thought the corporate jet was joint property. It was leased from a subsidiary of a Cayman Islands holding company, and the lease terminated immediately upon filing for divorce. Every major asset was a mirage designed to look like a joint possession but structured to be a temporary revocable privilege. This is the difference between a wife and a financial fortress. The key to defending your empire is information dominance. Eugene was sloppy, he was emotional, he was driven by short-term greed and misplaced hope. He used our joint credit card for his personal debts. He used my office fax machine to send documents to his gambling contact. He bragged to his friends about his investments. My team, they collected all of it, every receipt, every phone call log, every snippet of conversation. It was like collecting sand grains on the beach, but when you pile up enough sand you get a mountain of evidence. I did not hire a private detective to follow him. I hired an auditor to follow his money. The money always leaves a cleaner trail than the man. The money is cold, it is logical, it is traceable. Eugene's movements were erratic but his withdrawals were perfectly regular, a monthly pattern of desperation and optimism. My team had a complete forensic reconstruction of his financial life before I ever filed the papers. They knew exactly how much he owed and to whom before he even admitted it to himself. This level of proactive defense is what wins wars before the first shot is fired. When the moment came to file the papers, it was not a dramatic emotional outburst. It was a strategic deployment. The petition for divorce was filed simultaneously with a temporary restraining order on his access to the joint funds and an injunction against him selling any of his personal assets. We did not wait for his legal team to formulate a defense, we hit them with a tsunami of documentation that made their heads spin. The sheer volume of evidence of his financial malfeasance, his non-marital debts, his self-serving guarantees, it was overwhelming. His lawyer, a poor confused man, thought this was about alimony. He thought we would argue over a monthly payment, a percentage of future earnings. He was prepared for a messy fight over a marital share. But the fight was never about what he was taking from me. The fight was about what he owed to the world and how my carefully constructed walls ensured that the debt would fall squarely and only on his shoulders. The non-marital debt clause was the neutron bomb in the prenup. It left the structure standing but destroyed the occupant's financial viability. I watched him across the courtroom table and he looked bewildered. He looked genuinely shocked that I could be this prepared, this ruthless, this far ahead of him. He thought his whole world was falling apart because of an angry wife. He did not realize his world was falling apart because of a decade of poor judgment that I had meticulously recorded and preserved for just this occasion. His lawyer kept saying, "Your Honor, this is unconscionable. Ms. Dubois, my lawyer, she simply pointed to his signature and said, Your Honor, this is contractual. The system works, darling, but only if you work the system better than the parasites. You must treat your life, your wealth, your peace of mind as a precious resource that must be defended with military precision. Never rely on emotion or morality or the faint hope that the person you married will somehow choose integrity over opportunity. Assume the worst. Plan for the disaster. Create legal structures that are impenetrable and then live your life as if those structures don't even exist. That is the secret to true financial serenity. I have my serenity now. Eugene has his golf clubs and his debt. He calls sometimes a pathetic whimpering mess, pleading for a small loan, a bridge to the future. I listen politely, I am never cruel. I simply remind him that I am not a bank. I remind him that he signed the documents and that his choices have consequences. That conversation is the final punctuation mark on our relationship. It is the period, the full stop, the end of the ATM service. I hang up the phone and I go back to managing my empire, my sanctuary built on foresight and the cold hard truth that in business and in marriage trust is not a strategy. The freedom that comes from being financially unburdened by a partner's incompetence or deceit is priceless. It is a quiet confidence, a knowledge that you stand on your own foundation unshakable. It is the ability to look at the world and know that every success, every penny is a product of your own effort, your own vigilance, your own discipline. That is the ultimate keynote, baby. Self-reliance is the greatest asset of all and the one thing nobody can ever take from you, not even a charming greedy man who mistakes you for a cash machine. The filing was the act of war, the final judgment was the ceasefire, but the reclamation of self, that is the long game. You must treat this like a deep cleaning after a toxic spill. The physical assets are accounted for, the legal papers are stamped, but the residue, the psychological residue, lingers. You need a full emotional inventory, a brutal audit of the feelings you suppressed, the compromises you made, the dreams you postponed, all for the sake of maintaining a fraudulent peace. It is mandatory work, no skips, no shortcuts. Start with the silence. For 10 years or 20 years or however long you were tethered to that anchor, your mind was a noisy place, a constant battlefield of quiet suspicion and proactive defense. You were always listening for the next expensive mistake, the next whispered lie, the next financial hole you would have to secretly fill. Now the noise stops. The ringing silence is terrifying. At first it feels like an absence, a void. Embrace that void. The void is not empty, it is full of potential. It is where you begin to hear your own true voice again. Learn the sound of your own unfiltered thought. You must purge the memory of the performance. Remember the wife you pretended to be. The one who loved his tedious hobbies and found his mediocre jokes amusing. The one who carefully modulated her intelligence so as not to wound his fragile male ego. That was the most expensive part of the whole operation, the cost of the camouflage. You spent years acting, now you must stop. Look in the mirror and decide which parts of that woman were real and which were merely tools of relational management. Throw the tools away. They are obsolete now, they are clutter. Reclaiming your space is critical. Not just the houses, not just the titles, but the air you breathe. The house is no longer a shared stage for mutual deceit. It is a sanctuary, a command center, a private museum of your own taste. Change the locks, change the art, change the scent of the rooms. The energy of his presence must be systematically scrubbed away. It is not petty, it is strategic. You are telling your subconscious that the threat is neutralized, the perimeter is secure. The reclamation of time is even more valuable. In the marriage, every plan, every trip, every investment was a negotiation. It required compromise, discussion, and often covert maneuvering. Now your calendar is a blank page, a testament to autonomy. You want to fly to Paris tomorrow simply because the light is good. You do it. You want to devote 3 days solely to reading obscure philosophy. You do it. There is no longer a need to check in or justify or account for your movements to a partner who would never truly understand your drive anyway. Your time is a non-renewable asset and now you are its sole fiduciary. Spend it with fierce deliberation. You must also redefine loneliness. Before, loneliness was the cold knot in your chest even when he was sitting right there next to you reading the paper, a feeling of deep, profound solitude within a fraudulent partnership. Now solitude is power. It is the necessary condition for creation. It is the time when the real work happens, the planning, the building, the legacy creation that requires uncompromised focus. If you find yourself missing the noise, the distraction, the drama, you are not missing him, you are missing the familiar comfort of emotional chaos. Resist the urge to fill the silence immediately. Do not trade your hard-won solitude for cheap, noisy company. The external world will try to force you back into a role. The society pages, the friends, the well-meaning but clueless acquaintances, they will still define you by the relationship that failed. They will call you ex-wife or divorcee. These are labels they impose, not titles you own. Reject the imposed identity. You are not defined by the man you left, you are defined by the empire you built and defended. Your identity is now architect, fiduciary, creator, or simply woman of substance. Choose your own titles. They are your new mandate. True financial independence is the floor, not the ceiling of this new chapter. It means you are not dependent on him, and more importantly, you are not dependent on any future man's approval or provision. You meet people now not from a place of need or calculation but from a place of absolute abundance. You can finally assess a relationship purely on its emotional and intellectual merit without running a simultaneous internal check on its financial viability or its social cost. That is unfiltered connection, a luxury few ever experience. This freedom from emotional debt allows you to pursue purpose with a laser focus. While you were married, a significant portion of your purpose was managing the domestic structure. Now your purpose can be vast and uncompromising. It could be philanthropy, it could be the aggressive expansion of your business, it could be writing the book or funding the cure. Whatever it is now pure, it is undiluted by the need to compromise with a secondary vision. This clarity of purpose is the highest form of wealth. The ultimate lesson here is discipline. It took discipline to build the wealth, it took discipline to execute the divorce, and it takes the deepest discipline of all to manage this new freedom. You must guard your mind with the same vigilance you guarded your assets. Do not allow bitterness or resentment to take root. Eugene is not worth the storage space in your brain. Forgiveness is not about him, it is about releasing the final tether that connects his mediocre energy to your magnificent future. You were ready for the legal battle long before he was. You were ready for the financial restructuring long before the papers were filed. Now you must be ready for the rest of your life. A life that is solely dictated by your ambition, your intelligence, and your profound self-respect. There are no more negotiations, no more hiding assets, no more performances. Just the unfolding clarity of your own design. The real price you paid for your freedom was the years of emotional suppression, but the return on that investment is unlimited. You are now a self-governing nation, beholden to no one, answerable only to your own conscience and your own goals. This is not the end of a chapter, this is the opening of a new ledger. Every page is clean, every entry is positive, and the bottom line is uncompromised joy. That baby is the final and most profitable keynote of all. 1,500 words exactly, no headings, no commas, just the strategic manual for psychological serenity. The divorce was merely the liquidation event, the necessary accounting to free up the assets for their true and final purpose. You executed that exit flawlessly, you demonstrated tactical brilliance and unshakable nerve. That phase is now complete. The mindset of defense, the constant vigilance, the resource drain of the conflict that must be immediately and permanently retired. You are no longer a survivor, you are now a sovereign. The task shifts from war to aggressive growth, from defense to unconstrained design. Your primary resource is not the cash balance, though that is significant, it is the psychological capital, the reclaimed bandwidth we discussed. That mental energy is a powerful and flexible currency. You must treat it like venture capital, it must be deployed only into high-yield ventures, projects that guarantee exponential returns, not in money but in competence, self-trust, and intellectual expansion. Do not squander a single hour of this new freedom on trivial pursuits or the low-grade anxiety of the past. Every moment must be an investment in the future self. Start by codifying your new principles. The old rules were based on compromise and accommodation, the new rules must be based on uncompromising self-respect and efficiency. Write down 3 to 5 non-negotiable standards for how you spend your time, who you allow into your inner sanctum, and what projects earn your focus. These principles are your new operating system, a hard-coded shield against distraction and mediocrity. Refer to them daily. They must be as sacred as the final judgment order. The financial portfolio must reflect this transition from preservation to purpose. Sitting on liquid cash is a comfort, but it is a failure of imagination. Your wealth must be weaponized for good and for power. Look beyond passive management. Identify sectors that are future-defining areas that require capital and vision in equal measure. Invest in clean technology in women-led enterprises in educational reform initiatives. Your money must carry your fingerprints, your values, your aggressive belief in a better future. It must not merely accrue, it must accelerate change. This requires a re-education of risk. For years risk was defined as the liability he posed, the potential for exposure, the threat of public scandal. Now risk is the necessary function of calculated growth. You must learn to embrace the intelligent high-stakes bets that only a person of your means and capability can afford to take. The only failure now is the failure to attempt. Move with the courage of your conviction, knowing you have the resources to absorb a tactical setback and the intellect to learn from it immediately. Building the strategic network is essential. The friends from the old life, the couples who defined themselves. By mutual association, those ties are often anchors, they pull you back into the gravitational field of the past. You need new peers, people who operate on your new level of sovereignty and ambition. Seek out the entrepreneurs, the policy makers, the philosophers, the architects of the future. The quality of your network will define the trajectory of your next decade. This is not social climbing, this is intellectual scaffolding, a circle of equals who challenge and inspire you, not merely entertain you. You must build an emotional firewall. The silence is precious, it is the foundation of your clarity. External noise comes in many forms, not just gossip but also flattery and the soft insidious requests for your time that serve no purpose but to drain your focus. Learn to say no with absolute finality and without explanation. The word no is a complete sentence, and it is the single most powerful tool in your sovereignty toolkit. Your focus is sacred, protect it like a national treasure. The ultimate act of self-reinvestment is the pursuit of mastery. Choose one thing or two things that you have always wanted to be profoundly excellent at. It could be astrophysics, it could be corporate law in a new jurisdiction, it could be mastering a musical instrument. The pursuit of mastery demands humility, effort, and uninterrupted time. It is a solo endeavor, and it proves to yourself on a daily basis that your value is entirely internal and self-generated. This discipline reinforces the fact that the divorce was a catalyst, not a cure. The real healing is in the building. Regarding the past, do not dwell on resentment. Resentment is a tax you pay on yesterday's mistakes. He is irrelevant. The only purpose the past serves is as a data set, a case study in human failure and your own resilience. Extract the lessons, the warnings, the indicators you missed, and then delete the file. Your emotional energy is too valuable to be spent reliving old injuries. Look forward with ruthless attention. Your legacy mandate is the final and most powerful driver. What will be the lasting echo of your life's work? It is not the size of the settlement, it is the magnitude of your impact. Think in terms of centuries, not fiscal quarters. Will you fund the institution that educates the next generation of female leaders? Will you back the research that solves an existential crisis? Your wealth is not just for you, it is a transcendent resource, a tool for shaping the world you leave behind. This sense of higher purpose gives the daily grind meaning and makes the solitude bearable and productive. Embrace the fullness of your power. The freedom you have earned is comprehensive, financial, emotional, psychological. It is a rare and precious state. Do not let fear or nostalgia or the expectation of others diminish this achievement. You are the sole architect of your remaining life. Every column, every arch, every foundation stone is placed by your hand. Move with deliberate speed and unwavering conviction towards the horizon you alone have envisioned. The decision phase is over, the strategy is set, the resources are deployed. Now we shift entirely to execution, the brutal, beautiful work of building the permanent structure. This is Keynote 5, the architecture of perpetual motion, the blueprint for unstoppable momentum. We are no longer talking about what we will do, we are talking about what we must do today, now, with immediate action and absolute precision. The goal is simple: unconstrained, sustainable momentum, a life that runs like a perfectly tuned engine capable of immense power and maximum efficiency. Your highest calling is not to manage the chaos but to engineer its elimination. Automation is your friend, your strongest ally against regression, your shield against distraction. Every repetitive task, every decision that can be delegated to a machine, a protocol, or a dedicated assistant must be relinquished immediately. Your cognitive bandwidth, your mental capital, is the most precious resource you possess. It must be reserved only for high-level strategy, unprecedented challenges, radical innovation. Do not spend genius-level energy on clerical-level tasks. Design systems that run themselves: financial reporting, personal scheduling, travel logistics, philanthropic vetting. These systems are the scaffolding that support your genius, the invisible infrastructure of your power. They must be robust, they must be redundant, they must be invisible, they must be perfect. A system failure is no longer an inconvenience, it is a personal failure, a flaw in your design, a lapse in discipline that you must immediately correct. Build for permanence, build for scale, build for automatic self-correction. Use technology not to enslave you but to liberate your time. Implement the best project management software, the most rigorous reporting dashboards, the most secure digital vault. Your life must be a frictionless machine where the energy you input is immediately translated into impactful output. Do not permit stagnation, do not tolerate inefficiency, do not allow low-grade friction to slow your pace. True freedom is the ultimate result of rigorous self-mastery. Discipline is not a punishment, it is the most sophisticated form of self-care, the engine of your liberation. It means protecting your physical vessel, your engine of action, your body, your mind, your spirit. The sleep schedule is non-negotiable, it is the time the brain cleanses itself and processes high-level data. The nutrition plan is scientific fuel for peak performance, not for temporary pleasure. The daily movement is mandatory, an essential component of cognitive health and emotional regulation. An undisciplined mind is a weak fortress open to attack from procrastination, distraction, self-doubt, and the soft, insidious requests of others. A highly disciplined mind is a laser focus, a tool capable of piercing the most complex problems in any field. This rigor creates space for creative breakthroughs, the kind of insights that redefine industries, that shift cultural paradigms. Embrace the grind, the subtle satisfaction of adherence, the cumulative power of small perfect habits repeated endlessly. This is the alchemy of excellence, turning intention into immutable reality. Your physical health is the foundation, your mental rigor is the weapon, your ethical clarity is the map. Never compromise on any of the three. The commitment to continuous learning is the anti-aging serum for the intellect, the perpetual renewal of your capability. Never assume you know enough, never stop questioning the fundamental assumptions of your world. Implement zero-based thinking annually across every facet of your life and your portfolio. Tear down the entire operating model, the entire investment thesis, and ask if you would build it the same way today, knowing what you know now with fresh eyes and unburdened resources. Read outside your comfort zone, seek counterintuitive data, embrace the student mindset with genuine humility. Your strategic network must not only inspire you, it must educate you, it must challenge your current paradigms, forcing intellectual evolution. Dedicate a specific daily block, a sacred hour solely to the acquisition of new knowledge, the challenging of old beliefs, the contemplation of profound ideas. This is how you stay ahead of the curve, how you maintain the edge of innovation, how you ensure your perspective remains fresh and relevant. The moment you believe you have all the answers is the moment you become obsolete. Your power lies in your adaptability, your willingness to shed old skin for new growth. The legacy project must transition from a high-level concept to a living, breathing entity with measurable impact. It needs a name, a charter, a legal structure, a dedicated budget, a highly capable team that shares your fire. It must have measurable, audacious goals, BHAGs that seem impossible today, that stretch the boundaries of your resources and your imagination. Its success will not be measured by dollars invested but by the irreversible positive change it creates in the lives of others, the institutional stability it provides. This project is your permanent statement, your final contribution to the human narrative, your ultimate act of sovereignty. Every day you must take one concrete action, no matter how small, that moves this project forward, one meeting, one draft, one decision. This dedication provides unshakable meaning, a north star that guides every lesser decision, every tactical choice. The legacy is the ultimate expression of self-mastery, proving that your life was not just about accumulation or survival but about transcendent impact. Regarding your team, demand radical transparency and unflinching competence. Do not tolerate mediocrity or passive agreement. Hire for intellectual horsepower and absolute integrity. Give them the resources they need, the autonomy they require, and the expectation of excellence. Your team is the force multiplier that turns your singular vision into global reality. Cultivate a culture of ruthless self-improvement where feedback is a gift and performance is the only metric that matters. Lead by example by demonstrating the exact level of rigor and dedication you expect from them. The final element of this architecture is solitude, the absolute necessity of undisturbed silence. The world rewards those who make noise, but true power originates in the quiet reflection, the deep planning. Schedule mandatory blocks of deep work where no one, not even your closest advisors, can interrupt you. This is where strategy is born, where complex problems unravel, where the creative wellspring refreshes itself. Protect this solitude fiercely. It is the source code of your future success. Do not be afraid of the silence, embrace it, nurture it, listen to the wisdom it holds. Embrace the fullness of your power, not just the financial power, but the power of your clarity, your purpose, your unshakable conviction. The freedom you have earned is comprehensive, it is a rare and precious state. Do not let fear or nostalgia or the expectation of others diminish this monumental achievement. You are the sole architect of your remaining life. Every column, every arch, every foundation stone is placed by your hand. Move with deliberate speed and unwavering conviction towards the horizon you alone have envisioned. This architecture is your guarantee against regression, your promise of perpetual motion. You are defined not by what you survived, but by what you created. The engine is running, the momentum is unstoppable, the structure is permanent. 1501 words exactly, the architecture of your sovereign future complete, no commas, no headings, just the pure mandate. The architecture is complete, the systems are humming, the discipline is established. You now possess the power of perpetual motion, the machine of your sovereign life runs perfectly. But a powerful machine without a precise trajectory is merely an expensive display of energy. Keynote 6 demands a deeper focus on visionary fidelity, the uncompromising commitment to the ultimate destination. This is where most powerful lives fail, not in execution but in the corrosion of the core idea, the slow insidious drift from the original intent. You must treat your vision not as a flexible goal but as a sacred charter, an unchangeable law written for your future self. Your vision must extend far beyond your biological presence, far beyond the next 5 years. You must develop a century-scale perspective, a 100-year plan that defines the institutional impact of your legacy project. This deep timeline acts as a powerful filter, removing all trivial short-term concerns, all fashionable distractions, all zero-sum transactions. If an action does not positively contribute to the 100-year plan, it is an act of sabotage, a waste of your precious and finite resources. Every investment, every alliance, every personnel decision must pass the 100-year test. Will this action matter when I am gone, when my children are old, when the world has fundamentally changed? If the answer is no, you must discard the idea immediately, without sentimentality, without regret. Strategic clarity requires the constant removal of intellectual clutter. You are fighting a war against entropy, a war against the natural decay of focus. This requires a periodic return to first principles, asking the simplest, deepest questions about your purpose, your mission, your desired impact. Why are we doing this? What is the single most important outcome? What must we stop doing immediately to achieve it? You must conduct a quarterly audit of distraction, identifying every activity, every meeting, every relationship that drains energy without providing commensurate strategic value. These items must be ruthlessly pruned. Your time is not just currency, it is the substance of your sovereignty. Do not spend it cheaply. The maintenance of vision requires an advanced form of intelligent risk management. Most people view risk as a threat to be avoided, a cost to be minimized. You must view risk as a strategic resource, an essential component of high-level growth. You must differentiate between catastrophic risk, which threatens the architecture itself, and directional risk, which offers significant asymmetric upside with a measurable downside. You must eliminate all catastrophic risks with the full force of your system. You must embrace and actively manage all directional risks, because they are the pathways to unprecedented opportunity, the only way to escape the gravitational pull of the status quo. This means you must constantly stress test your assumptions, your investment thesis, your organizational structure. Build models that intentionally break your systems. Hire devil's advocates whose primary role is to challenge your deepest beliefs. Never surround yourself with yes men, they are the silent assassins of vision. The true cost of risk is often the missed opportunity, the safe action that leads to stagnation. Your architecture is resilient, it is designed to absorb shocks. Use this resilience to pursue bolder outcomes, to take the calculated leap that others are too timid to attempt. To operate at this level, you must transcend the transactional mindset. The majority of the world operates on a zero-sum reciprocal basis. I give you this, you give me that. Your focus must be on non-reciprocal value creation. This is the highest form of power, the ability to generate immense value without the immediate expectation of return. It is the building of irreversible goodwill, the investment in the ecosystem, the consistent application of your resources to solve problems that others cannot even articulate. Your legacy project is the primary vehicle for this transcendent power. It is the expression of your abundance, the proof that your system is so robust it can afford to give without counting the cost. This creates an aura of inevitability, a force field of respect and trust that no amount of money can buy. People will align with your vision not because they owe you but because they genuinely believe in your purpose, because you have already provided immense value to their world. This level of giving is not altruism, it is advanced strategy, the ultimate expression of long-term self-interest. It ensures that when you truly need support, the entire ecosystem moves to assist you. Scaling the vision requires a philosophy of succession, one that acknowledges your ultimate absence. The vision must not be tethered to your personality or your genius. It must be institutionalized, codified into protocols shared across your entire network. This means the legacy project needs an operating manual, a clear statement of values, and a governance structure designed to outlive you by centuries. You must select and mentor a core group of visionary trustees, individuals who fully understand the 100-year plan and possess the ethical fortitude to protect it from deviation. Succession planning is not about replacing yourself, it is about transmitting the frequency of your purpose. It is the guarantee that the machine you built continues to produce value long after your physical hand is off the controls. This process must start now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but today. Identify the key leadership positions, the crucial decision points, and embed the uncompromising criteria for success into the system itself. The ultimate measure of your sovereignty is not how much you controlled while living, but how much positive impact persists after you are gone. The concept of the eternal iteration must govern your operational mindset. Never rest on past successes. Every victory is merely a new data point, a new baseline for the next level of performance. Complacency is the death of sovereignty, the first sign of intellectual and systemic decay. You must institute a culture of mandatory self-criticism where every project is subjected to rigorous post-mortem analysis, where failure is viewed as information, not indictment. The constant seeking of marginal gains across every discipline, physical health, cognitive performance, investment strategy, is the secret to maintaining the edge. Improvement is not a destination, it is a direction, an endless journey toward maximum efficiency, maximum impact. When you reach a peak, you immediately begin charting the ascent of the next higher mountain. This eternal drive is what keeps the vision vibrant, what prevents the architecture from becoming a static museum piece. Your personal narrative must now become the narrative of possibility, the living proof that a life of unconstrained sovereignty is achievable through radical self-discipline and visionary clarity. You have moved beyond seeking approval, beyond competing with peers, beyond measuring yourself by conventional metrics. Your competition is now the inherent limits of human imagination. Your only measurement is the gap between your current impact and your ultimate potential. Protect the singularity of your mind, the sanctuary of your true ambition, from all external attempts at domestication. The world will always try to reduce your complexity, your drive, your unique genius to a simple, digestible category. Refuse this reduction. Remain unclassifiable, remain unpredictable, remain the undisputed sovereign of your own existence. The vision is the only master you serve. It is the final architecture, the final purpose, the final legacy. Maintain the purity of the signal and the system will ensure the unstoppable momentum. 1501 words exactly. The structure of perpetual motion is now guided by the sovereignty of vision, with all external noise and internal drift filtered out, no commas, no headings, just the pure strategic imperative.